Hey, woohoo!
So, Jay's my best friend, and I have a short speech that I wanted to give, and I wrote some things down, but I may freewheel a little bit. First of all, you guys are beautiful. Beautiful couple. Amazing wedding. No, you're beautiful. It's actually the first time I've seen Gabe clean shaven in about 10 years, I think, since we were in high school. Thanks. So, a couple things about Gabe that probably everybody knows. First of all, one thing that's interesting is, if you've noticed, all of Gabe's friends, all of us have nicknames. And the interesting thing is, Gabe's given us every single nickname that every single person has. I mean, Eggs, Poohbar, Pex, Horse, Crooked Cart. All of our nicknames come from Gabe. And it's interesting that, Gabe's never had a nickname, because he gives everybody else their nicknames. So everyone calls him Gabe. I actually looked, I wanted to throw some Torah in. So another thing about nicknames, Adam Harishon, the first thing he does after God makes him is he gives everything names. It says, Vayikra ha'adam shmot l'chol ha'behema. So he gives every animal names. And the Radak, which I learned is in the Chumash, says that Adam could see the essence of every living thing, so he could give them names that would actually stick and would make sense. And so, like Adam Harishon, Gabe gives everybody a name that has their essence in it. And he gave himself a nickname last year. It stands for something very important, and I want to elaborate on where it comes from. It's Torah, Parnassa, and Chesed. It's TPC for short. He gave himself, and it really illustrates the essence of what kind of person Gabe is. The first is Torah, and I spent probably half of my life in Gabe's house with his parents. So, all I wanted to do was play Tecmo or sit in front of the fan, or maybe play on the indoor hoop that you had and eat some generic cereal. But all Gabe ever wanted to do was learn Torah in the house. And if you were over Shabbos, you heard his parents speak. They gave beautiful divrei Torah, and he definitely gets it from his parents, and that's the first thing. The second is Parnassa, and my first real job was working with Gabe as a vendor at Wrigley Field and for the White Sox. And Gabe made more money than just about anybody, and I can say I think 95% of his money came from young women and old ladies. All tips. It's amazing. And he's a really hard worker, and there was some scandals when we were working there, people stealing money, and Gabe never did. He's an honest guy. And, I work with him now with a premier Chicago sports blog we write together, and he's just a very, very hard worker, and I learned a lot from him. The last is... it's called Luol's Dome. .blogspot.com. You can buy T-shirts and other paraphernalia there. It's TBC. Chesed is the last one. And I want to talk. It literally means kindness. And if anybody knows Gabe, he's the kindest, nicest, best person I've ever met in my entire life. No stories. It's just he's the best. He's the best person I know. And then one thing about Ravit, who looks beautiful today and is amazing with Gabe. The first thing I noticed when I met her, we went to Gabe's apartment, and she baked the best desserts. She is an amazing cook, and she baked these brownies, which I'll never forget. Which were amazing. Just the best desserts I've ever had, just outstanding. And she really makes, they can cook together, and they have a really wonderful home together, and it's a good sign. And one story Gabe told me when he was in Israel when they first had met, and he had just started kind of flirting with her, and he said he overheard someone telling Ravit. He said, and I wrote it down because I remember. He said, this guy said to Ravit, it wasn't Gabe, somebody else said to Ravit, if you were my wife, I'd take you down a peg or two. And Gabe said back, he said, if you were my wife, I'd massage your feet until you fell asleep. And that's how I knew. That's how I knew they were meant to be. And I just want to give a toast to Gabe. It's my best friend. And I wish you guys the best. Mazel tov.
Mazel tov. Woo!